In this video class, I'll discuss the same problem that we used earlier, but this time we use another method, and that would be by component method. Okay, I hope you're looking at your white screen now. So this time, we use the same set of vectors, vector A and B pa rin. I'll still use A and B na the same na ginamit natin kanina. So if let's just recall, let me write here the results that we had earlier, no, in the earlier video. So using scale drawing or graphical method, these were our answers. So for letter A, our answer was, let me look at my código. Vector A plus B is equal to 9.60 meters. That's the magnitude. Direction is 40 degrees. Standard position angle. And then our answer for letter B, the vector difference between A and B, we had 22.0 meters at, let's say, 18 degrees west of south. Ayan, with respect to south. So let's use component method this time. Okay, and compare our answers kung malapit lang ba or masyado bang malaki ang percent difference. So by component method, I hope you've read the textbook, no, and the other learning materials that I gave you. For the component method, we do not need a scale drawing. We just need a roughly estimated drawing. Whether it's scale drawing or rough estimation, the vector addition diagram will always be a head-to-tail drawing. Okay, and then if you connect the starting point to the end point, that will still represent the resultant or the sum. Okay, so I suggest in component method or algebraic method, you'll be able to show your solution systematically if you put them on a table. So here's how we tabulate. Okay, I'm sure you've had this in your senior high also, but let's just recall. So you have your vector there, and then you have the magnitude, and then you just place the unit here sa taas so that we do not need to keep on writing meters at the lower cells. And then we show the direction. And then we resolve the x components of all vectors. In this case, dalawang vectors lang. And then the y component. Okay. So let's make it a table, no? So we have two vectors, vector A and then vector B. Okay. So let's sketch this. I mean, write into a table. I'm sorry na. Ang pangit ng table ko. Ayan. Thank you. So these would be the columns. And then you have your vector A there. Very good. Okay, now let's go to vector A. Let's fill this in. The magnitude of vector A as shown in the figure is 8. Okay, pwede namang hindi muna natin i-follow yung significant figures dito sa table, sa final answer na lang. Pwede rin namang i-follow natin, okay? So the direction, if i-standard position angle natin, that's negative y or 270 degrees or south. And then B is 15 meters. Direction is 30 degrees east of north. Or if you like, you can also use the equivalent standard position angle, which is 60 degrees. So if you use here 60 degrees, you do not need to write north of east anymore because it's understood na standard position siya. Okay, but I want to use the given angle here. So second step, when you have prepared this already, then we will resolve the components of the x and y. What's good here in this problem is that na-illustrate na yung vectors natin. There are most of the problems walang illustration na given. Ikaw pa ang mag-sketch, okay? So since meron namang drawing dito, yan na lang gamitin natin. Okay, so we create a right triangle with the vector as the hypotenuse. Kung pwedeng mag-create ng right triangle. Okay? Kasi si vector A, this is one-dimensional. Meaning, lahat ng magnitude niya nasa iisang axis lang. Lahat nasa negative y. So, for one-dimensional vectors, madaling ng component kasi hindi mo na kailangang isolve. Tingnan mo na lang yung itsura, di ba? It goes south. So, there is no part of 8 meters here that is along the x-axis. Therefore, it has 0 x component. So, I can write here, therefore, that a sub x, or the x component of a, is 0. And then, the y component itself is equivalent to the vector A mismo, which is 8 meters, pero going negative y-axis. So, even without solving, it's negative 8.00. Bakit naging negative 8? Kasi if you use the standard position angle, you always use cosine for x and sine for y. So, kung gusto kong kunin using standard position angle, si AX, okay? So, AX is just, you have the magnitude of A and then the cosine of the angle. Cosine of 270 is negative 1. Ayan. Ay, I'm sorry. Cosine, sorry. Cosine of negative 270 is 0. I'm sorry. So, this is cosine of 270. Cosine of 270 is 0. Ayan. Kaya, si AX natin 0. And then, si AY, pag gumagamit ka ng standard position angle and looking for the y component, you always use the sine function. So, you have the magnitude of the vector and then the sine function. Wherein, the sine of 270, this is negative 1. Kaya, you have there the negative of A, which is just negative 8 meters. Ayan. So for one-dimensional vectors, you do not need to show this, no? Pwede namang idiretso na lang sa table. But I just show it for the benefit of everyone. Let's go to letter B. Si letter B, take note that vector B is in the first quadrant. So immediately you know that for the first quadrant, its x-coordinate is positive. Let's use another color. The x-coordinate is positive and the y-coordinate is also positive. So if I will use the 30 here, 30 kasi is not a standard position angle. So kung yan ang gusto kong internal angle ko, then gagawa ako ng right triangle. I start from the tip of the tail of B and then along the y-axis. So this is now the y component of vector B. Meaning, ito yung part ni 15 na nasa y-axis. And then from the head of vector B, this would now be my x component. So, si by naka-head to tail kay bx because by definition, the vector sum of the components bx and another component by, this defines the vector b itself. Ayan. Kaya ang starting point to the end point, siya yung resultant ng dalawang components natin dito, the vector sum. So if you look at the right triangle here, the x and the y, they always make a 90-degree angle. If you use if you use angle 30, bx is opposite to 30, and then by is adjacent to 30. So in this case, since hindi SPA si 30, tayo ang mag-determine kung sine or cosine ang gagamitin natin. So let's recall, TOA. Okay? Yung mnemonic natin, no, sa basic trigo function. Where sine here is sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse, and then cosine of any angle is adjacent over hypotenuse, and the tangent of any angle is equal to opposite side over the adjacent side. So since si bx natin dito is opposite or kaharap ng 30, then we use the sign for opposite over adjacent. So we'd say therefore that the sine of angle, let's call 30 as theta. Sine of angle theta is equal to, the opposite side is bx, and then the hypotenuse is b. Okay? So if we cross multiply, bx therefore is the magnitude of vector b times the sine of angle theta. So b is, magnitude db is 15, and then sine 30. Now as a vector, Lalagyan ko na siya ng vector sign sa taas. Ako na mismo maglalagay ng sign dito na positive ito. Kasi si bx papuntang positive x. Okay? And then, simplifying this, 15, saan na yun? This is 7.5. So, paki-check na lang sa calculator. Positive 7.50 kung mag-3 significant figures tayo. So, lagay ko dito si bx. This is 7.50. Now, I'll go to by. Si by is adjacent kay 30. Okay? So, I'd say that adjacent, itong si cosine ang gagamitin ko. So, I'll have cosine of the angle equals adjacent is by. Hypotenuse is b. Ayan, nagbuot-buot na po siya. by over b. So that by as a vector, you'll have the magnitude of b cosine theta and then it goes positive kasi paakyat. Yan. So we have here positive 15 times the cosine of 30. Our y component of b is given as positive 13.0 meters. So lalagay ko dito sa taas 13.0. Now, kung gagamitin natin, if we use the standard position angle, we always use cosine to get the x component and we always use the sign for the y component. So using 60, okay, I'd say that bx is b cosine 60. So this should give us 7.5. Let me check. So 15 times cosine 60. Kasi si 30 at saka si 60 complementary angle, no? Ayan. So it's still 7.5. Positive. So lalagyan ko ng vector sign sa taas, arrow. And then this is positive 7.5 pa rin. Kung nag-SPA ka. And then to determine the y component, it's just 15 sine always and then standard position angle. And this should give you 13. Let me check again. 15 sine 60. So it's 12.99. Let's make it 13. Positive 13.0 meters. Ayan. So pareho lang. In other words, you can always choose which angle. Kasi nga, ang direction kasi ng vector, pwedeng angle between the tail and the x-axis or the tail and the y. So in this case, the angle ni B with respect to x is 60 degrees, that's SPA, and the angle between the tail of B and the y-axis is 30 degrees, no, with respect to north. Okay. So now that you have your components, we can now say that, sakaw na to gamay ha, move ko konti dito. Ayan. Okay. So by definition, we say that, black ba ito? So we say that A plus vector B, so this is already, I'm answering A, no? Ayan. We'll call this as resultant R. Okay. Now, you can only add the same components kasi. So we say that if we add the x component of A plus the x component of B, this will give you the x component of the resultant. Ayan. So if we add all of this, itong si ax plus bx, then this will give us r sub x. Ito, sagot natin for here. Yan. The same is true for the y component. Ay plus by is equal to the y component of r. So, ito yan dito. Pag inad natin tong last column, this is now the y component of the new vector r. Ayan. Kasi sabihin natin dito, a plus b, we call it as resultant r. And the r here, yung unknown natin, magnitude and direction. Yan yung pinapasolve sa atin. So our the next thing to do, you get the Rx and you get the Ry. So from here, klaro naman dito, no? That Rx is just Ax is 0, and then bx is 7.5. So rx is still positive 7.50 meters. Let's go to the y component. This is negative 8 plus 13. So we still have here positive 5.00 meter. Okay. If we sketch these two components now, we have positive Rx, positive Ry, then this is found in the first quadrant. Okay? So medyo klaro-klaro na kasi yung answer natin kanina nasa first quadrant din. So, i-sketch muna natin, no? So, you have longer length for the x, shorter length for the y para maganda pa rin yung rough estimation natin. So, dito, pwede na walang scale. Rough na lang estimation. So, I'd say, if this is my Rx, which is 7.5, then more or less, I have to draw a shorter, no? So, i-head to tail ko siya. This is now my Ry. And then, I'll connect the starting point to the end point. And this is now my R, which is equal to A plus B. And then I can get this angle and probably call this as alpha. Or I can also get this angle and call it theta. So, if you notice, si X at saka si Y, they always make a 90-degree angle. And then the vector, which owns the two components, will always be the hypotenuse. So, we can now use Pythagorean theorem to determine the length of this hypotenuse. No? I hope you can still recall your Pythagorean theorem. So, the length or the magnitude of this vector R, by Pythagorean relation, you just have Rx squared plus Ry squared. And then putting in the values now, you have 7.5 squared plus 5 squared. So R, without the vector sign, that's just a magnitude, this is around 9.01 meters. Ayan. So, yung sagot natin kanina sa graphical is 9.6. There's a difference of around 0.59 meter. Ayan. And then let's solve for alpha. So, si alpha, the opposite side of alpha is Ry, and then its adjacent side is Rx. So, using TOA, so you'd say that the tangent of alpha, ay ibahin ko na lang ang color para mas makita. I'll use green. So for the direction, this is the magnitude ha. And then for the direction, I'll calculate the angle between the tail and the x-axis. So that would be alpha. So the tangent of angle alpha, the opposite side is the magnitude of Ry. And the opposite adjacent is Rx. So see alpha therefore is just arctan of Ry over Rx. So this is tan negative 1. And Ry is 5 over 7.5. Alpha is given as 33.7. Medyo malayo sa 40 degrees na gawa ko sa graphical. So in our final answer, therefore, ayan. So therefore, we say here in the declaration of the final answer, R, which is equal to A plus B, the magnitude is 9.01 meters, and then the direction is 33.7 degrees standard position angle. Okay. I calculated the percent difference between the graphical method and the component method for A. So for the magnitude, the percent difference between the answer in graphical and component, so percent difference, is around 11%. So, okay na, Len. And then for the direction, the difference, percent difference between component and graphical in this question is around 8.4. So, mas malapit yung sagot natin sa direction. So, you will learn more in your lab, kung ano ang physical meaning ng percent difference. We always calculate for the percent difference if we want to compare the nearness or the difference between two results using two different experimental methods. So, wala tayong standard value dito kasi we are just comparing two methods, graphical and component. Okay? So kung mas naging maingat pa ako sa pag-measure ko ng angle and length kanina, then mas mababa ang percent difference natin dito. Okay? Ayan. So, mahaba na ba ang time natin? And then, another, I think I have to end here na lang siguro kasi baka masyado nang mahaba. So, I will end and then I'll stop sharing. And then, I'll continue in the other video. Okay?